and welcome to Your Broken Galaxy. I am Broken, and today I'm asking the question, what if Padme fell in love with Nute Gunray? So the Trade Federation has blocked Naboo. Qui-Gai and Obi-Wan have come. Their support staff was, of course, blown up. Not that they seem to care too much about that, but they are able to escape. Meanwhile, on the planet, Padme Amidala is talking with all her advisors, and she's heard that the Jedi were coming to negotiate, so she decides to call the Trade Federation Viceroy and gloat a little bit. She gets up the nerve and has a holo call. Nute answers and says, "Again you come before us, your highness." And Padme, who admittedly at this point has started to think of the amphibian as a rather attractive member of his species, says, "You'll not be so pleased when you hear what I have to say, Viceroy. Your trade boycott on our planet has ended." And Nute, with the poise that only a 1%er of his kind can have, looks at his colleague and then turns back and says with a calm and confident voice, "I was not aware of such failure." And Padme, shudders, but not so much that it's noticeable. It's mostly inside, mostly in her heart. The attitude of the alpha, the cool serenity of a man that knows exactly who he is and what he is doing, is just more than she can handle. They continue their conversation, and Nute thinks nothing of it, but as soon as the holocall ends, Padme grabs Sabe and says she needs to see her in her room. So the two of them go, and Padme is like, "Sabs, babe, I don't know what it is about Nute Gunray, but he is like, whew, I've got butterflies when I talk to him." And Sabe says, "I'm sorry, what?" And Padme says, "He's just so cool. He's always so in control of himself and the situation. He's a man that really knows how to lead. And that voice, that accent is so attractive." And Sabe says, "You mean the Viceroy of the Trade Federation?" And Padme says, "Yeah, I get so flustered when I talk to him." "The Frog Man!" "Sabe, please, we don't need such derogatory terms." So, a little while later, Padme is having a meeting with her council, and she is told that the Trade Federation is almost certainly going to invade. And Padme, thinking about the chance to actually meet Nute in person, says to them that she won't condone a course of action that'll lead them to war. Padme, however, is super nervous about meeting Nute face to face, so she ends up pulling Sabe again to the side and says, "Sabe, I got an idea." And Sabe says, "What's that, Your Majesty?" And Padme says, "I want us to switch places." And Sabe says, "Why?" And Padme responds, "Okay, so I'm really nervous about meeting Nute face to face. I don't know if he'll like me, so I think I should disguise myself as I, try and get to know a little bit more about him. You need to act like the queen. I'll tell the other handmaidens that they have to go along with it." And Sabe says, "We're talking about the same Nute Gunray, right?" "Yeah, just help me out here, Sabs." And Sabe takes a deep breath and rolls her eyes and says, "Okay." So they switch clothes, and Padme is applying her makeup and trying to make herself look good for Nute, because she thinks that maybe even though he won't be talking to her, since she thinks she's a handmaiden, that she might still be able to catch his eye. The droids land, and Padme is like, "Whoo, okay, deep breath, Sabe, it's time." So they go walking out, and Nute catches them, and Padme immediately notices how tall he is. Nute rounds up some of the other politicians, and good old C.O. Bibble says, "How are you going to explain yourself?" And Nute says, again, with the confidence and assurance of a man that knows he is just winning in life, "The Queen and I will sign a treaty that will legitimize our occupation here. I have assurances it will be ratified by the Senate." And Padme just melts a little bit inside. Sabe butts in and is like, "I'm not signing it." But Nute says, "No, Your Highness. In time, the suffering of your people will persuade you to see our viewpoint." And Padme is like, "Oh my, he is a bad boy." Which is just a little bit exciting for the young queen. This guy, he is not like all of these betas here on Naboo, she thinks to herself, looking over at C.O. Bibble and Captain Panaka. The Jedi end up rescuing her and say that they need to go to Coruscant. And Padme's heart is breaking a little bit that she has to go, but she's like, yeah, we're brave, let's go. So they fly off and have some adventures in pod racing. She gets really just really annoyed by this little boy from Tatooine that seems to have a huge crush on her. They end up getting to Coruscant, but the entire time all she can think about is getting back to see Nute. So Palpatine and Panaka come walking in and are like, hey, guess what? I was nominated for being Supreme Chancellor, and Palpatine is thinking, oh snap, this is awesome. He's from Naboo. He can stay here and keep working in the Senate, and I can go back to see Nute. So she flies back to Naboo, runs into Darth Maul, a little bit terrified by that. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are like, we'll handle this, and they do. She ends up fighting her way through the palace, but ends up getting captured. As she is brought to Nute, he says, your little insurrection is at an end, Your Highness. Just like a total Chad would say. And Padme's heart skips a beat, because he is just the epitome of manliness in her mind. He continues and said, it's time for you to sign the treaty and end this pointless debate in the session. Then, suddenly, from down the hall, she hears the voice of Sabe say, Viceroy, your occupation here has ended. And Nute says, after her, this one's a decoy. So Padme pulls out her blasters, throws one to Captain Pancake, and says, now, Viceroy, we'll discuss our relationship. And Nute's eyebrows, well, I guess he doesn't really have eyebrows, but the part of his face where his eyebrows would be raised with intrigue. Panaka looks over at the Queen and is like, what are you talking about, Your Highness? And Padme says, so, I know this might be a little abrupt, but I'm like, I was wondering, would you maybe want to go out sometime? And Nute says, I do not understand what is happening here. And Padme says, look, I'm just saying, it could be, you could give me your number, and it might be nice to hang out. And Nute looks at Panaka with bewilderment on his face, and Panaka returns the look with confusion and a shrug. Padme says, something could happen, right? Let's just see. And Nute says, are you asking me out on a date? And Padme says, we don't have to call it that. We can just hang out. And Nute says, you mean hang out on a romantic date? And Padme says, look, if you want to take me out on a date, I would let you. You seem pretty cool. And Nute just looks over at Panaka again, whose facial expression could accurately be described as terrified worry. Then he looks over his shoulder at Rune Hako, who quietly says, And that is like the only word he can get out. He is basically speechless. Nute turns back to Padme, who at this point has let down her hair and put her blaster away. She smiles at him and says, I think it'd be fun. And then she kind of playfully bites her bottom lip. Nute says, look, Your Highness, I don't think that's a good idea. And Padme's voice changes and she says, what do you mean by that? To which Panaka takes his eyes off Gunray to look at Padme, and Nute looks over at him and sees that his expression of terrified worry has turned into one of worried terror. And Nute, absolute pinnacle of manhood that he is, accepts that he is in danger and just dives right into it. He says, Your Highness, you're not right for me. And Padme says, what the heck is that supposed to mean? I'm the queen of my own freaking planet. I'm rich. I'm beautiful. I'm a freaking 10. And Nute says, it's nice that you think that, but you're not a 10 in my book. And she says, why not, you frog-faced incel? And Nute says, well, I mean, that comment for one, but sweetheart, you're small and pink with those brown eyes, and I'm sorry, but you don't have an ounce of slime on your entire body. And she says, don't you body shame me. And Nute says, look, I'm sure that you are very attractive by human standards, but I'm just not attracted to humans. And Padme pulls out her blaster and shoots him in the kneecap and says, oops, sorry. And Nute, lying on the ground in incredible pain, looks at the captain, who is beyond horrified at just everything that has happened over the last 3 minutes, and Nute kinda nods at him with a silent expression that says, let's get on with it. And Panaka, wise man that he is, pulls out a pair of handcuffs and walks over to Nute and stands him up gently. As Panaka and the other guards are assisting Nute out of the room, Padme is yelling, you're just a loser, Nute. You think you could have been with me? You're dreaming. You never could get with me. I can't believe you thought I would go for someone like you. And just as they are out of her earshot, Nute whispers to Panaka, dude, what the heck is wrong with her? And Panaka says, I am so sorry. I thought she was normal. And Nute says, don't most humans think that people of my race are like hideous in terms of romantic attraction? And Panaka says, oh yeah, bro, that feeling is mutual between our races. I am so sorry about your knee. And Nute says, yeah, man, I tell you though, thanks for getting me out of there. I owe you one. Well, that is my video for today. I hope you liked it. I'm thinking about doing a part 2. And that would focus on Attack of the Clones and seeing how Padme's love for Nute would play out in that one. But I want to leave that up to you. I have only had 3 videos get over 200 likes so far, and if this video gets 200 likes, then I will go ahead and I will do part 2 of What If Padme Fell in Love with Nute Gunray. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and all that garbage.